their direction.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100% on that. And, we don't realize it now, but if this keeps up, the totality of all this is going to really affect the climate and the weather and even us, mankind.
Well, can you imagine getting on a bus and think you're going to Nebraska and you end up in Connecticut somewhere? Because the GPS on the bus is way off. I don't know, but that was a bad joke. But I mean, it's true. I mean, before I even crashed the motorcycle got totaled, I should say, from my son. But the last time I was on it, I noticed my GPS on it was different. It kept updating. Like every couple of weeks, it would update the location because it locked into the satellite. So it's telling me that things are changing.
Right. And, I bet if you took True North today and compared it to, say, even 1,000 years ago, but there would be a significant, I can't even say it, a big difference, so to speak.
I wouldn't want to get lost in the forest and then use a compass because who knows where you'd end up at.
Well, that's the thing. If you're off just by a few degrees, it doesn't seem like much where you're standing, but if you follow that course the whole way, at the end of your journey, you could be way off. I mean, way off.
Hundreds or thousands of miles off. But could you imagine being lost in the forest? You got your trusty compass, right? So you're sitting there going, well, hey, this is the right direction, right? But in fact, you're going and getting yourself lost deeper.
Yeah, and especially there's a lot of rocks out there that has more magnet to them, and that will affect your compass more too. And then if you got your compass that's not working right, you're just going to get lost deeper and deeper, and that's disaster.
Oh, yeah. Now, I got to ask you a question. Do you believe there is such a thing as a Mothman?
I don't know what to say about that, because I only live about maybe 100 miles from where that all took place, Point Pleasant there in the Silver Bridge, but I got to say this. I think there's something to it, and in my opinion, it's an interdimensional being that I think they can't help us, but they're like I think they know what's going to happen because I don't think time is of relevance to them. So I think they come to observe. I don't think they're the ones causing the problem, but I do think, I think there is something to it. However, with that said, I think a lot of Mothman sightings are mistaken with, like you said, big cranes that are off by hundreds of miles because their internal clock is off. So they're mistaken for, Mothman or something because people have never seen him.
Hey,
in their area.
How big a wingspan does a crane have? Isn't it pretty good size?
There's different ones. I know I seen one on TV the other day, had like 4-foot wingspan. And, if you see a crane you've never seen in your area before with a 4-foot wingspan, and it's at kind of night maybe, and, it's maybe 30, 40 feet off and it's flying low by you, that could, your brain plays tricks with you sometimes.
Well, especially at night because you can't judge distance. So it could be, 80, 100 feet, 200 feet from you, and you see this big giant bird and it looks prehistoric. Well, the average person's going to think that, especially if there's no cranes ever in that area and all of a sudden you see one for the first time. I don't know what I would do.
Well, I can tell you this much. 10 years ago, I was riding, again, out in the middle of nowhere in Bigfoot country at about 2 in the morning. And this owl, this owl probably had a 3-foot wingspan. It was the biggest owl I've ever seen. It come out of nowhere trying to get this other bird. And it flew right across my windshield. And I got to tell you, if I wasn't, grew up in the woods, I might have mistaken that for, God knows, Mothman or something. It was freaky.
Well, when we first moved here about 20 years ago, we had an owl that kind of hung around on one tree next to the porch. And occasionally, go out there and it would be hanging on our porch, on one of the rafters. And that thing was probably about 2.5 feet tall. And, could you imagine even a 2.5-foot owl? It was a big one. The wingspan on that. And I tell you, it was kind of eerie.
Yeah, exactly. And when you see them at night real fast fly across your window, I could see how somebody, especially if they don't see them very much in their area, could mistake them for a Mothman, especially if you've got that in your head already, and you're in the area where there's been a lot of sightings of Mothman.
Well, like one of my regular guests on, he was talking again about this lady that lives in this area next to his museum. that ran into a Mothman twice. The first time she hit it and it put a dent in the car. And, I was telling Joe, why didn't somebody tell her to go get the car? The first thing I would have done is taken the car in and said, hey, to the police, I hit a Mothman or a human being or something. Can you take a DNA swab off of this? And that would have put an end to it. Yes, no, maybe she hit a pole and didn't realize it. But from the description, she was saying that she thought she hit it, but the thing was standing in front of her car. She got out and said, are you okay? Are you okay? The thing looked at her with the glaring eyes and then kind of flew away.
Yeah, that's some bizarre stories. And to hit it twice, that kind of makes me think maybe
no, didn't hit it twice. Didn't hit it twice. Ran into it twice. Because then about like 6 or 7 months later, now this is in Texas. I can't remember the name of the area, but it's kind of a secluded area, that she was driving in that same road again. And it's a back road out there, nothing really there. And she saw somebody walking in the middle of the road. So she stopped and asked hey, are you okay? And then she noticed the glaring eyes. It just stopped and, stared at her, didn't approach her, but just stared. And then it again just kind of flew away. She didn't hit it the second time.
Okay. Yeah, that would be spooky. That'd be enough to keep you up, especially after the second time. And
oh, I'm sorry. It did kind of bounce off of the roof of their car.
Well, yeah, that would be, yeah. That's another one. How do you go home and say, honey, I hit a Mothman. There's a dent in the car. I mean, how do you explain that one? Or call the insurance guy. I hit a Mothman.
Yeah, well, how would I the same way? How could I have explained the dent in my wife's car, calling up the insurance company? I just had to pay for it. I could just see it, calling up my insurance company and saying, hey, I was up in the Canadian Rockies on a road trip. And and a Bigfoot threw a rock and it took out the passenger fender and part of the door. What's my deductible on that? I could just see what they would. They would probably try to be as serious as they could. I know they would mute the phone call and say, "Oh God, we got somebody that's on here."
Yeah, they'd be calling everybody in from all the other offices and put you on speaker and say, "Now, could you tell us this story again?"
Yeah, no, I mean, come on. I didn't tell anybody about that, what happened to me for years and years and years, till I actually had people coming on and talking about Bigfoot, and their stories didn't jive with what I saw. Now, maybe it was a hairy man, leftover that, from draft dodger from Vietnam, and, was like at that time in his 50s, living out in the Canadian Rockies, never took a bath in all those years, and let his hair grow, and maybe being cold up in the Canadian Rockies like that, his body hair grew really wrong. Maybe he learned to run faster going between 2 legs and 4, using all 4s.
Well, you got to factor in this too. If that's a person and he's 7 to 8 foot, 350, 400 pounds,
about 500 pound range.
Okay, 500 pounds. You imagine how athletic you'd have to be to go from 2 to 4, 2 to 4?
Oh, come on. Even in my 30s or 40s, when I was in good shape, probably equal to what you are, okay? Because I used to work out in the gym at that time. I tell you what, I couldn't run between 2 legs and my all 4s and run for 2 miles like that and beat me. I mean, I thought we did good getting back to the car in the time we did, and it was already there.
Right, and you're not, 7, 8 foot and 500 pounds. That's a big difference doing something athletic like that when you're, 5'11", 220 compared to 8 foot and 500. My goodness.
I don't know. It just kind of makes me wonder. There's a lot of things out there, that, again, you're not going to find this stuff. When you go out looking for it, you're not going to find it. But I will say this. I was talking to a Bigfoot hunter, a couple of weeks ago. Plus, I was talking to Tobias Whalen here. We were talking about Bigfoot for a minute. And, I said, if you got somebody out there, looking for Bigfoot and you hear these knocks on the tree, so you figure that's a Bigfoot, right? So you take and knock on the side of a tree and it knocks back. Most likely you got somebody out there looking for a Bigfoot, right? And they're making noises, hoping to get a response. Then you hit on a tree. They think, oh, gee, there's a Bigfoot. Hey, it's just two people looking for Bigfoot knocking on the trees.
I have thought that many times. And it's funny, she had mentioned Salt Fork because that's not far from where I live. And I've been out there looking a few times for Bigfoot or just hiking or whatever. And one day I heard the most ungodly noises in the world. And I'm kind of crawling on the ground, peeking up over this log. And I'm thinking, it's going to come to a head. It's either going to be me or Bigfoot, because it's on. And so I look up, and there it was. It was a peacock, because all the farmers back in the all the farmers would have these peacocks, and they started getting away and escaping. Now they're living in the wild, and they can make some of the most ungodly noises. And they got big wingspans too. They could be mistaken for Mothman because, again, peacocks aren't native to this country, but they're out in the wild.
Yeah, that would. So hey, next week on the show, we got some great guests on, and we're going to be talking, believe it or not, Monday through Friday about Area 51.
Oh, yeah, the countdown's on, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I got some major hitters that's coming on the show, and it's going to be very, very interesting. These guests are like the top guest in UFOs, and we're going to be talking about Area 51 Monday through Friday. I got 5 guests booked in. And it's going to be interesting.
Wow, sounds exciting. I bet they're well-known names, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like Joseph P. Warren. There's a bunch of them that in the UFO field. Preston Demmett is another one that will be back on, and then a couple other people who have never been on, all are going to be on talking about Area 51.
Oh, definitely don't want to miss that. Yeah, because that big countdown's on, September 20th is supposed to be the big Rush 51 or whatever.
Yeah, don't do it, people. Don't let anybody, the person now that took over what somebody else started, okay, is doing it to make money with their business. You don't want to step on Area 51. Don't let your emotions get you like you got to get on Area 51. Those people that guard Area 51, they are contract labor, okay? They are hired, okay? They are trained for one thing, and that's to keep people off the property. They have permission to use lethal force. They don't have to justify it. You take 1 foot on the property, they can bang you. You're dead. And it's not going to go to court. It's nothing. It'll ever happen out of it. So don't even think about it.
Yeah, that would be a mistake because they're trained to use any force necessary to accomplish what they need to do to eliminate any trespassers or any threat.
Oh, yeah. I was stupid. I was talking about it on the show the other night with Tom. Years ago, me and my one son, we were on a road trip. Naturally, had to go see Art. But we went up to Area 51, and I remember going on this one road that Art told me about, but he said, don't go past the mailbox. And yeah, there's a mailbox there, but then the road kind of stopped, but then here's this like dirt road. It continued on. So I remember going on maybe, God, I can't remember. I'm not going to lie. But I went a little ways on it, and all of a sudden I saw this vehicle coming, from the side of a hill, coming on that road, coming at us at top speed. And I shoved my vehicle into reverse like you wouldn't believe because there was no place to turn around, and got off of there, and then, put the, pedal down to the metal and got out of there. I'm sure if I would have went a little bit farther, I would have been detained, or who knows what would have happened.
Right. And, they've got all kind of sensors that they can tell when you're there. They've got cameras. They probably even watch it through satellite. Who knows? But, yeah, you're not going to sneak on that place by no means at all.
Now, one of the sensors they use is ammonia from your skin. Is that sensitive?
Oh, wow. Well, then you're dead in the water. You're not going to get by them. And again, they're going to use whatever they have to get you off of that property.
Oh, yeah. Hey, tomorrow night on the show, guess what? We got Chad Meek back on. And Chad Meek, is his grandfather, basically was involved with Howard Hughes, and kind of the whole thing evolved in one of the very first places people would gather to watch UFOs.